Well, hey there everyone, I'm Pastor Cullen, joining you again this week for another of our videos where I'm going to explain what our spiritual discipline is this week that we're going to be practicing every day and looking to our daily devotionals for inspiration. And all of this is to invigorate your faith so that we can all better live, love, and act like Jesus. And this week we're going to be practicing humility. Now, in our world that craves position, power, and authority, humility is often looked down upon. It's something not to be encouraged or something that we should shy away from. But humility is probably the thing that Jesus most embodies. The thing that Jesus himself most embodies is probably humility. When we look through the Gospels or we look at the other New Testament writers and the way that they reflect on Jesus' life, humility is a common theme and a very prominent one. And it was something that the early church wanted to live out, a life of humility. I would remind you of Philippians chapter 2, where Paul is writing to the Philippian church, and he has this beautiful hymn that he writes, and he says, though Jesus had equality with God, this position, power, authority of equal status with God the Father, the Almighty, he didn't consider it something to be grasped, exploited, held on to. Yet he humbles himself. And he humbles himself not just a little bit. He humbles himself all the way to the bottom of society. He comes as a poor man. He's a Nazarite. And he dies, humbling himself to death on the cross. Jesus sits down and does a job that only slaves did, taking off his outer garment, setting it aside, taking on the visual assumption of a slave to wash the feet of the disciples. Throughout his ministry, Jesus embodies humility. He is the ultimate authority, the ultimate power, and yet he also models the ultimate level of humility. We shy away from humility because we don't understand it. Humility is not thinking less of yourself. Humility is thinking about yourself less. The goal here is not for you to not be confident in who God has made you. God has made you a beautiful person, and He has a plan and a promise for you, a plan to further you, for you to prosper, for you to do something in this world. But so often, we're trying to live the American dream, and we think it's all about us. How do I get to the next stage? How do I do the next thing? When in reality, we should be focusing on others and living Jesus to others. The early church, they modeled their faith by selling off their possessions and giving to anyone who had need, as it's recorded in Acts 2:43 through 46. The early church thought that the best way they could live their faith was in humility. And so this week we're going to be practicing it. We're going to be looking at a psalm that's about confidence, but our confidence is not in ourselves. It's in who God is and what He's doing through us. So I invite you on this journey with me this week. I hope you pray and search your heart on how you plan to practice humility, and join me tomorrow as we seek to invigorate your faith so that we can all better live, love, and act like Jesus as humble people of the gospel.